coming through, Dr. Wale. People are so much eager to hear from you. Like Madam Jennifer has said, I know you know Madam Jennifer Karina,
very
right?
well, very well.
Yeah, and so many other people that are here tonight, and I'm so humbled to have you tonight. You're a man who doesn't require introduction, but nevertheless, I will still introduce you. And for everyone, Johnny, let me just confirm that my co-host Johnny is here. I can see him. Let me just unmute him. Johnny is your co-worker. Hi, Johnny. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Say hi to the team, please.
Oh, good to see you. Good to see you guys. I have to be very humble. My boss is in town. I'm just so excited right now. I'm just so excited right now. Good to see you, sir.
Great
Awesome.
to see you, John. Well done.
Well done.
Thank you. So we just getting started, and allow me to introduce Dr. Wale for all those that have joined us via Zoom and Facebook Live. We're truly humbled to host you tonight, and please get ready. We are all going to learn. Like Jennifer has said, we have one of the best minds in town, and it's not flattering, but that is the truth. Having him tonight I'm so humbled. Were it not for the respect of my bishop that he came, I don't know whether I would have had him, but I thank God for him. So let me just take you through Dr. Wale. Dr. Wale is a family man. He's a coach. He's a trainer. He has done a fantastic job. When I was going through his bio, I came to realize actually one of the things that he did was to assist the IEBC. If you remember the time there was chaos at IEBC, he participated, he played a very good role in uniting the team, and we truly appreciate such people. He has worked with the banks, he has worked with our business institutions, government to train, mentor, and coach. He runs programs, and one of the best programs that he's running right now is Street University. Street University by Power Talks that runs on Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m., Thursdays, 7:30 p.m., and Saturdays. If kindly you can connect with the Street University, you're going to learn so much. Then he has a family program, the Super Homes. I get glued to that meeting every time he's with his wife. And it's good to have you talk about the Super Homes. Then on Sunday, he has the Sunday Common Sense, doing the word. And we truly appreciate. Sometimes I switch to the service, and even after that, I follow through. He's a published author, and he's an accomplished author per se. When I talk about being an author, Dr. Wale has not just authored one book. He has done Help My Chocolate is Melting. My best book, Dr. Wale, that's my best book. Help My Chocolate is Melting. And then we have the Beyond Intelligence. I'm just mentioning a few. We have, which other one? I had listed them here. Drive Intentional Living. Drive Intentional Living for Exceptional Leadership. All those are books and many others. So Dr. Wale, we know that all this is wisdom that God has helped you to put together. And so I'm going to request you, Dr. Wale, please tell us, there's so many people here about Dr. Wale, the Nigerian-born, living in Kenya, doing a fantastic job training people in Kenya and America from here. Please tell us about yourself, your journey. How did you make it to this far? Some of us want to be Dr. Wale. How did you make it to this far? Please come through to us and tell us.
I think, first of all, it's a privilege. Thank you so much for having me here. I feel so honored. Thank you very much for the opportunity. When you say somebody wants to be Dr. Wale, I think you should think bigger. You know, that is a very small vision. I like to see myself as a passionate African. My purpose in life is to transform Africans' way of thinking, because we are where we are because we've been thinking. And so if we're going to move to another place, we have to think different.
Okay.
And so that is what drives me. My dream is when I encounter people, there must be a before and after on how they think.
Okay. Wow. That is important. And your vision is transforming Africa one mind at a time. That's your vision. So now you've been training
Yes,
in Kenya. I know your journey. I just don't want to preempt it. But what inspired you to go into training? What inspired you to go into this area of training?
Well, my background academically is in demography and social statistics. So all my life, I've been involved with research, with cause and effect. Most people see the effects of things, but I am trained to look for the cause, all right, and then address the cause. My first work experience was in 1989, 1990 at a place called the Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. So that was the foundation for me. And I think it's just something that has been inside me that I was born to do. I remember as a kid, I was always reading. I mean, then I would read the Financial Times. You have to understand, I was barely 8 years old. I would love to read the Financial Times, Fortune magazine, Forbes. My parents saw that and they began to subscribe to these publications. So I think it's something that has been in me for a while. I have this desire to share knowledge with people and this desire to see people's problems addressed in the most pragmatic and easy to implement way.
Okay, wow, that's beautiful, Dr. Wale, and we truly appreciate you because you're doing it, and we are learning so much from you. I want to go straight to a very interesting, season that we are in. And when I was looking at your book, "Help My Chocolate is Melting," I read something, an example that you gave about an emperor who built a chocolate castle during the winter, but forgot to take care of the summer. That is the beginning of the story. And it's very interesting to realize that in the season we are in actually relates with that story. And I want you to tell us about the season we are in and the lessons that you've drawn from COVID-19, having coached so many organizations. When we talked last week, you mentioned about the trainings that you're running throughout the day. What is this season supposed to talk to us about business, entrepreneurship, leadership, ministry, everyone? How is the chocolate melting for us, Dr. Wale?
All right, thank you. That book was inspired. I was watching a movie with my daughter, and there was this guy who was asked to build a castle, a big palace with chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. When the temperature was cool, the house stood. But once the sun began to shine, then the house melted. And for me, it was an aha moment that a lot of us in leadership, in business, in whatever we're doing, we do things under certain conditions. If conditions change and we do not change, then we will become victims. And I think that is what has happened to a lot of people. The conditions have changed, but they have not changed. And I was looking at something earlier on today that we should not be fooled that everybody is having a bad time. I was looking, and you just Google, I mean, everybody can do it, and just Google who is hiring right now. I came across a list of companies, some of them in the US, some of them multinationals, and I find it interesting in the US that has the highest rate of COVID-19 deaths and infections in the world. I just give you a few. A company called Instacart is hiring 300,000 contract workers. McDonald's says it wants 260,000 people. Amazon says it's looking for 175,000 people. Albertsons, 50,000 people. FedEx is looking for 35,000 people. Taco Bell is looking for 30,000 people. Pizza Hut is looking for 30,000 permanent people with them. And the list goes on and on and on. Citibank is looking for 15,000 positions globally. Now, so when we look at that, that should make us think that, wait a minute. Not everybody. Now, a lot of organizations are laying off people, but you see, companies, one of the things we are seeing, a lot of companies that appeared to be strong before the pandemic are now appearing weak. Even nations that the whole world looked to, like the US, as they were strong, they appeared to be strong, are now falling flat on their faces. So I began to research, because that's what I do. I began to research the organizations that have really literally collapsed and the organizations that are soaring. What do they have what do they have in common, or what's the difference between those two? And one defining trait that seemed to run through all those that have made it through in a big way has been their adaptive nature. There's no era in my life where I have seen visually that it's not the strongest of the species that survive, not the most intelligent, but the most adaptive to change. And so you see the flexibility and the belief that, and this is something I have believed for a long time, that the oak tree that bends never gets uprooted by the storm. Now, you find out that when a storm comes, a lot of trees can be uprooted and washed away, but the herbs and the shrubs, they rarely get washed away. Why? It's the size of the tree is not an advantage in the face of a flood. What matters is its ability to bend, its ability to be flexible. And just as I wrap up this particular point, you think of a branch, Now, when it is alive, you can bend the branch and it can bend easily. But when that branch is dead, the slightest pressure, it breaks, it snaps into two. So flexibility is a manifestation of life. And while rigidity is the practice of death. So it is so important that to be able to deal with things like this, you find out that those guys that are soaring, they already had flexibility in their culture, in the way they did things. And that's why they did not fall victim. I mean, I have seen companies that I have studied in the last few weeks that have totally changed their business model. Totally changed their business model. Seeing that, you know what? If we are going to survive this, we have to bend. All right. So yes. I think in terms of dealing with situations like this, that would be my recommendation: adaptability.
Adaptability. Fantastic. That's a very important point for every leader. Adaptability. And I love what you said, the tree that bends, then it can survive for long. And I can see some people lifting their hands. Please feel free to ask Dr. Wale any question that you have. Like I said, I would love this to be an interactive session, because we have people from business, from ministry, from any corner of any sector. So feel free to ask a question to Dr. Wale. And I just want to throw the second one, change and crisis management. Dr. Wale, there's so many companies today that are being sued either by clients or by members of staff because a crisis came and it caught them unawares. So they have to deal with a lot of crises. The question is, as a leader, at such a time as this, what should a leader do? What kind of qualities should a leader develop to lead his or her organization from where we were before COVID to post-COVID? What should a leader do? Kindly. No, Dr. Wale, can you hear me?
Right.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
I can hear you.
Thank you, sir.
I can hear you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, let's look at, there were countries that addressed this situation as merely a public health crisis, while there were others that addressed it as a declaration of war.
Okay.
I give you an example. When you look at a country like South Korea, they detected their first cases around the same time as the United States. But leadership, they took it like this is a declaration of war on our way of life. And I think that is so important. The fact that at a time like this, I think every leader in an organization should think like a war general.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have my team, they are the troops. Okay? How do we deal with this? You see, wars can never be benchmarked because each war is different. So there's no stereotype for fighting war. Yeah. War decisions are made on the go. And this is where I think a lot of leaders have failed. During war, you see, I come from a country where we have had military coups and the military takeover and all that. And one of the things that I saw them do, which also happens during war, you declare a state of emergency. Mm-hmm. Now, when you declare a state of emergency, for some of these countries, those that grew up in such environments, they actually suspend the constitution for a period. Why do they do that? Because during war, you have to be able to make swift, snap decisions. If you are still going to go through tedious processes, you will lose a lot of time. And I think that the big thing that leaders should do at a time like this is position themselves, declare a state of emergency, position themselves. Some of the old processes, that just took forever. Let's make quick, snappy decisions. That is one thing that, again, those who have really excelled, they were able to do. In the book, Business at the Speed of Thought, Bill Gates said that every company has a digital nervous system. And he said you would measure the health of the company by how quickly bad news got from the bottom to the top. That means there must be such a seamless flow of communication. So as a leader during this period, you are making snap decisions. You are ensuring that the people that are there, they don't lose hope. But you also communicate, because every war has its casualties. You must also communicate that there will be casualties in this war. We might lose some people to the war, all right? But there is a way you can share bad news in an inspiring way. And these are some of the skills that I think leaders need to develop or need to have implemented.
Fantastic. Awesome. Let me get back. This is so powerful, Dr. Wale. I'm telling you, because like you're saying, communication, how do you communicate bad news? And that's a very valid point, because I think some people are waiting to hear COVID-19. I was reading an article somewhere, you know, someone, a manager in a company who said, it's an opportunity for us to lay off, all right? And of course, they have done it. And it's very unfortunate. I want you to talk to us, and especially now, because when the companies, of course, communicating the bad news, there are victims. And those victims, again, becomes, what would I say? You know, people that are going out. An example of K24, where the senior, you know, members of staff were laid off, and they are out there. Some of them are here. Maybe, of course, not necessarily from K24, but from other organizations. People who have been laid off, people whose businesses are collapsing. And I would want you to talk to those that are affected, the victims. What should they do? Because those are the leaders of the organization. They are the victim. They are victims of those decisions. Please talk to the victims for a minute before we hear from the plenary on what they have.
All right, thank you. And for anyone here who has been a victim, my message to them is that it's unfortunate, but you know, like in that book, Help My Chocolate is Melting, one of the things that I push for is that when your chocolate melts, don't throw the melted chocolate away. Learn how to make cocoa, you know, with the melted chocolate. So let's look at the facts of the case very carefully. So now you have been asked to leave. So there is no work right now. But this is the point where you now realize, and this is so important, is that what the world is after is value, not titles. And so you need to have a meeting with yourself and ask yourself, what value can I bring to any table? Okay? You need to articulate your value very, very well. Now, once you have identified, and again, you also must think like a wartime general. You don't have time for long deliberations. Snappy decisions that, okay, what value am I bringing here? Then once you have identified that, then the next question, who needs my value? So what value do I have? Who needs my value? Then how do I get my value to be seen or appreciated by the person that needs it? You see, if you're able to answer those three questions, I think you will go far. Let me share my personal story. By the time I was coming into Kenya, I had gone through a very bad situation in life. I had lost everything. I owed money everywhere. I had gotten into a deal with a government, one of the state governments in Nigeria, and they refused to pay me because they wanted me to rub their hands. And, you know, one of the things that I have believed so strongly is that anything that I cannot testify about without embellishing, I don't want. I don't want to get my hands involved with that. People have asked me, how could you walk away from so much money? It's simple. I've always said a lot of people cannot say no to corruption or to some things because they have not said yes to something else. When your yes is strong enough, your no will be easy enough. I've said yes to being a great husband to my wife. I've said yes to being a great father to my children. I've said yes to being a role model and mentor for many, many people in different parts of the world in leadership. Last night, I spent virtually the whole night addressing a group of business women from across America, you know. So I have said yes to so many of these things. And because my yes is strong enough, my no is easy enough. So having said that, you know, so I lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I actually came here to Kenya.
Okay.
I was staying, a wonderful man in Kilifi, Pastor Shadrach, who he arranged a place for me to stay. And my family was in Nigeria. Now, at this point, I want you to know everybody was better than me. If I had to take a tuk-tuk, my tuk-tuk was 50 shillings. I could not afford the 50 shillings at a go. All right, that's how bad things were. So we go back to those questions I asked.
Mm-hmm.
What value could I bring? I knew my value is I can help influence the way people think. Okay, so once we have started now, who needs my value? Decision makers need my value.
Okay.
How do I get my value to the people who need it? Now, those days it was just email. We didn't have social media like we had today. So I would go to a cyber cafe, pay 60 shillings for an hour, and once a week, I write articles, and I began to send them to the few people that I knew. And they began to forward and forward and forward. Eventually, one of my emails landed in the email box of a man that God used for me in this country, Mr. Samson Osero. He was then principal of the Human Resource College. So
Okay.
Mr. Osero got that email. Apparently, he liked it. Now, you have to understand, I'm talking about, you know, the value, who
Yes.
needs my value, and how do I get my value out there?
Mm-hmm.
So I was just sending out these emails. He saw this email, he loved it. Not long after, he became the executive director of IHRM. His very, very first conference that he was going to host, he invited me to come and speak. Now, please, I'm a trainer. And who do I need to know in the organization? HR. Now, he exposed me to all these people. Then next thing, after that, Mr. Osero told me, he said, look, I can't hire you, but what I will do for you is this. You develop curriculum, bring it to me, we will sell it in our network, you come and facilitate, and we do revenue share. Now, look, that was more than I could ask for, because back in those days, as a Nigerian, I couldn't just knock on doors of companies, because people, you know, the minute I step in, there'll be a Niger alert, bam, bam, Nigerian in the house, you know.
Yes.
You know, that's the way things were then. But because of this, things just opened up for me. Then again, because I started, you know, with those emails, one day somebody called me and said, would you like to write for the newspaper? I thought it was a joke, you know. I thought he was kidding.
Yes.
Next thing I knew, they said, send 2 articles. I sent 2 articles. The rest is history. I was given a column. Okay. Now, I continued writing that. Okay. Now, I wasn't getting much money from all these things, but at least food was on the table.
Yes.
Then, while I'm writing those, one day I get an email. This person says, I have read your articles. I love your articles. Let us have a meeting. And I found myself at the Kenya School of Government. Then the Director General of the Kenya School of Government, and these are people that have helped my journey. Professor Margaret Kobia, she was the Director General. And she said she's been reading my articles and she loves them. They have a strategic leadership development program. It's for the highest level of leaders that I should come, the things I'm writing about, I come and talk to them about it. And that's how I found myself facilitating there. The rest is history. So now I want you to understand those three questions. What value am I bringing? Who needs to experience the value I'm bringing? And how do I get that value across to them? Always look for what is the lowest level of entry. My lowest level of entry was sending out emails. I did that, and through simple weekly emails, we are where we are today. So I hope that has helped.